Good afternoon, innocent friends. I'm Father Julian Borda, and today we continue on with the second part of our study of biblical art. And we jump several chapters in the book of Genesis today to go from the creation of Adam in the second chapter of the book of Genesis all the way to chapter 11. Now, of course, there's a lot that is going on in the Bible in between those two chapters. There's the fall of Adam and Eve and their expulsion from the garden. There's Cain killing Abel. There's the flood that happens upon all the earth, and Noah and his ark being rescued with his family. And then there is the new generations that come forth from Noah. They all gather together in a place called the Plains of Shinar. And so we see now that humanity has lived through this flood by the grace of God. And they're thinking now about what do we want to be like. Right now, in the biblical narrative at chapter 11, they still have a common language. They're all still able to talk to each other. They share basically a common culture. They work together and they are able to come to an interesting agreement. It says here, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we shall be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." And so that's how we get what we call the Tower of Babel. And so we're going to look today at another painting. This one, not from Italy, but from the Netherlands. And so it's called the Great Tower of Babel. There's another painting that he did called the Little Tower of Babel. But this is Pieter Bruegel, the elder, who does this painting in about 1563. And we see here a lot of different things going on as a depiction of this grand project in the early days of humanity. So Pieter Bruegel is trying to show in this painting some very hard work being done. He's trying to show that the people of Babel, the people of this place, are all putting all their efforts in. And so there's, as you can see, a whole big city. Looks more European than it would have at the time, of course. But a big city with a great wall all around it. And in the middle of the city, this gigantic tower, this gargantuan tower, which is, as you can see, a very ambitious project on the level with the skyscrapers that we have in the modern day. And so Pieter Bruegel is trying to show here that there's a lot of work that these human beings are pouring into this massive project. See the scaffolding that is happening here. You see different engineering machines. We see people all around, hard at work, moving stones, moving bricks, trying to get everything all together in just the right place and all working together for a very common purpose. But Pieter Bruegel is also trying to show some more troubling aspects of this whole endeavor at the same time. Babel, of course, is often associated with human pride. As we saw in the verse, there's this impetus, this desire to make a name for ourselves, to be able by our own strength to make our mark on the world, to reach the summit of human achievements, to by ourselves without any inputs from God, without any need for God, to be able to do everything that we can and to be powerful kings upon earth with a tower to show for it. In this, he's using a model of a building that still mostly stands today. So we'll see in the next few slides. We're going to go first to a sign of the decay. We're starting to see, this project, which never completed, of course, the Tower of Babel, but that there's some at the same time as the scaffolding, some decay and some limitations to what human beings are capable of achieving. And we're also going to see the model for this as well, which will be the Colosseum in Rome. So if you saw the picture before, you'll notice that there's a lot of similarities. For the Tower of Babel that Bruegel paints for us is circular, and it's got a lot of arches all across its framework. And so it's not quite the same, but you can see that it's meant to echo the Colosseum. And that's because Bruegel wants us to make the connection between what we saw in the Tower of Babel and what we see with the great empires. The empire Babylon, which has a name that sounds an awful lot like Babylon, which people argue is no coincidence. And then the new Babylon that the book of Revelation describes later, which is Rome. And so we're seeing this continual, this recurring project among humanity, that this is hardly something that just happens with the Tower of Babel. It's also something that happens with the great empires that rise and fall over the ages. That we as human beings have this desire to build and to build and to build, and by building, if we build enough, if we build strong enough, sturdy enough, tall enough, that we will be able to supplant God. And so Pieter Bruegel is showing the folly of this, and he's showing the dangers of this way of thinking, and the fact that, as human beings, we are capable of great constructive projects, but we are also limited, and we will also, in our attempts to replace God, ultimately be doomed to fail, as were the people of Babel. And so we'll see in this next slide something else that's just a little detail that I think is very interesting to consider as well. So Pieter Bruegel puts in the bottom left corner of his painting this person with his entourage, with several people around him. This is generally considered to be Nimrod. We don't know that for sure, but that would make the most sense, though the Bible doesn't explicitly say it. One of Noah's descendants described in the Bible is Nimrod. And Nimrod is considered to be the king at the time of the construction, and perhaps to have been the one to order the construction of the Tower of Babel. So we see here King Nimrod, surrounded by his servants and by his courtiers, ordering the humble servants, the people, to build this tower, not just for the people, but also perhaps for his own glory and his own legacy. And so we're going to see that play out here as well. Pieter Bruegel is trying to accomplish a lot of things, as were the people building the Tower of Babel. But we're supposed to take away from this magnificent painting, this very impressive painting, in which Bruegel shows a very good understanding of engineering, a very good understanding of parallels throughout history, and he masterfully puts all of those together to show us the story of human beings in a grandiose tower that is a marker of human ingenuity and at the same time of human ego that can be our undoing. I hope this has been an interesting look into what some of the painters and the authors of these great works across history are trying to show us, trying to give us a glimpse, an insight into what God is teaching us in Scripture. Next week, I'm looking forward to continuing through the Old Testament and taking a look perhaps at David and Goliath. So I hope you will join me for that this coming week. God bless you all. Take care.